Crypto products and NFTs are unregulated and can be highly risky. There may be no regulatory recourse for any loss from such transactions.
Hello and welcome to this fireside chat where we are going to talk about what is next for crypto regulations. What is the future of crypto regulations? And we have with us none other than Mr. Subhash Chandra Garg, the former Economic Affairs Secretary. And Mr. Garg, you of course played a very pivotal role in India's move towards looking to regulate the sector. You headed the Inter-Ministerial Committee on Virtual Currencies. You also brought out the original cryptocurrency bill. So it's a pleasure to have you here, and thank you so much for joining us. And while we are going to talk about what is the future, what is next for crypto regulations, I want to step a little, back to what the budget entailed and what the budget announced for the crypto industry, and that is the crypto tax. 30% tax on the transfer of virtual digital assets, including cryptocurrencies and NFTs, and it also included a 1% TDS on crypto transactions. Now, while the finance minister has categorically said that this does not mean that cryptos have a legal status, the crypto industry is very excited about the fact that there is some recognition and the possibility of regulation of the sector and that cryptos may not be banned. I want to ask you how you are looking at what the budget announced for the sector. Does this mean that this is a recognition of cryptos as assets?
Thank you, Mugdha. Thank you very much for having me on your show. Let me, so since you begin with the budget announcement, so budget this time did two things to the crypto space. One, you referred that the tax of 30% on transfer of virtual digital assets was imposed. And in addition, there was also a proposal for 1% tax deduction at source. There is another proposal for the digital currency, which we can discuss later on, but let me first address the question of the taxation and its implications for recognition, regulation of the sector or the otherwise, right? So see the crypto assets, and let us be a little clear that there are broadly three kinds of crypto assets which or the crypto phenomenon which we talk about these days. One is this cryptocurrencies, which is essentially what works as a currency. For example, the Bitcoin, when it came up as a currency where you transfer, you make payments, and that is a representation of value, and that works as a value transfer. So this is the currency function. Then you have the crypto assets where you value them for their asset value, for their worth as the asset. You can hold value for longer. And then there are a large number of crypto businesses. You do mining, you do creation of virtual digital assets, and you do many other things which are the crypto businesses. You can treat them as commodities if these are goods form, or you can treat them as services whenever you perform. So the tax proposal relates to only crypto assets. It's not related to currencies. It's not related to crypto businesses. And so that is the one crux of the whole thing. Now, 30% tax, is it high, low? Those are different issues one can discuss, but it serves as that this is at least the opening gambit. The government started with 30%. The assets are taxed at different rates. The long-term, short-term, there are many variations, equities, bonds, holding period, and indexation, etc., etc. So there are lots of variations about the listed, unlisted of the taxation rates, but they begin with 30%. Now, mind you, the crypto assets were a legitimate assets in the country. This was not that they were illegitimate or unlawful assets. especially after that Supreme Court judgment in the when the challenge was made to the Reserve Bank's restriction for using the banking system and the payment system for payments and receipt of the crypto assets related payments and the receipts. So after that, there was, in my judgment, there was no ambiguity about the legitimacy of the crypto assets. What the sector was facing was that the government's taxation and the regulatory, which we will come later on, that the government's taxation regime for the crypto assets was unclear. People didn't know, the investors did not know at what rate should I pay tax, should I pay tax or not pay tax, and likewise even the tax authorities were not clear that should you tax it at the equity rate or some other rate or whatever. So I think this the biggest advantage to my mind, or the biggest clarity which has been brought about in the budget, is that the crypto assets related gains, capital gains, are taxable, and they are taxable at 30%. Now, so clarity, regulation relating to taxation, but nothing else at this moment.
Absolutely. I think you called it the opening gambit by the government towards looking to regulate the sector. And while you said nothing about regulation, there is some clarity, especially when it comes to how cryptos should be taxed. Now, you brought out a very important aspect of the budget, and that is the announcement about the central bank digital currency, or the digital rupee as it is being touted. If you can simplify it for us, what it will entail, what the advantages are, and really what will it mean for private cryptocurrencies?
See, I think there need to be a clarity again on what is currency, what is money, and what is physical money, and what is the digital money and the digital currency. I think those things need to be a little clearer to my mind. In simpler sense, the money comprises of two parts. One is the physical cash, or the notes which we carry in our pockets and all the or the coins. So those are the currency part, the physical currency. Then we have lots of money in our bank accounts, which can also be used for making payments, like the physical cash can be done. So essentially, the money is a broader concept, and the money includes the physical currency as well as your account money. Together, they will form the money in totality. The broad money, what we call M2 or M3 in some countries. So that is the way that broader money comes in. I think we should also take note of the fact that with the bank account money becoming digital, a lot of payments have already become digital. So today, even small payments by the government of transferring scholarships or the LPG gas payments or many others are being done digitally. Likewise, whenever you use UPI or IMPS or NEFT or any of these modes of making payments, or you make purchases on the e-commerce, etc., you make payment either by using your credit card or by debit card for making payments from your bank accounts. So a lot of digital payments are taking place already. Now, what is still not there digital is the physical currency. That is the part of the system which is still physical. Now, the day we are able to convert the physical cash into digital cash would be the day when there would be arrival of digital currency or digital rupee in our context, right? Just to give you a little bit of context, that earlier we had only the metallic currency. So either there was a gold coin, or there was a silver coin, or they were debased or smaller or low value metallic coins. There was no paper currency in India before 1862. That is when it came for the first time. So the banknotes replaced substantially the metallic currency for its all inefficiencies and other things. Now, if the digital currency comes, which will mean that instead of carrying cash in your wallet, you can carry the digital cash in your wallet, right? And use it for making all kind of payments. Today, use your digital cash in the bank account. The day when you are able to do it without going through your bank account is the day when the digital currency or digital rupee would be available for payment. In international payments, it has already begun to take place. So the private currencies have come in different forms of what they call stable coins. So Ether, not Ether, the Tether, and there are a couple of other stable coins as well, which can be used today to make payments for or transferring money to America, elsewhere, or for buying and selling other things. So that is the real thing when the digital currency comes in. Now, in this budget, the government has amended the RBI Act. A new definition has been inserted, which says that the banknote, which is defined which is used in the RBI Act, can be in the form of the paper banknote, or can also be in the form of virtual or digital form. So it equates, if I can again explain to you, it's not there at this moment, but like your share certificate, earlier was physical, today you have dematerialized share certificate, right? So suppose tomorrow you have dematerialized banknote in your wallet, which looks like, or which may not even be a code, which may look like a note, a digital note, but is transferred digitally, not physically, because it's in virtual form. So that might be an equivalent of the digital currency. Now, the amendment has been made. Lots of exemptions and authorities have been conferred on the RBI to bring this digital rupee. In fact, this is most revolutionary, if I may say so, in this context, because earlier, whether it was a metallic coin or whether it was a banknote in the paper note form, the government had retained all the authority to decide that what denomination, what design, what picture, what language, all these would be approved by the government. But this time, for the virtual rupee or digital rupee, they have delegated most of these powers to RBI. But what we have heard post-budget is that the RBI is not very comfortable with having bestowed so much of power. So they are reportedly making a draft law which they will take to the government to bring on the lines of the Coinage Act of India or the Paper Currency Act of India, a digital rupee act for the country. Now, when does this happen? We don't know. And in the world, there's lots of debate about this retail currency and the wholesale currency. Honestly, there's a lot of nonsense about this going around. The currency is currency. It's usable for retail, for wholesale. It's not the main thing. The main thing is the currencies. It should be equivalent to all. And the wholesale payments, by the way, have already become digital completely. Many retail payments have also become digital. So there is no point in keeping a different kind of currency, whether retail or wholesale. But let us see when the Reserve Bank comes up with what kind of law. Thank you.
Right. Thank you so much for simplifying it for us. You essentially said that a dematerialized note is what a digital rupee might essentially be. And some interesting tidbits there about
code form. It can be in the crypto form also.
Correct.
But,
Correct.
but I don't know which the choice will make.
Correct.
But we can have a discussion if time permits. The crypto form of the note or the virtual currency will not work. That's a different matter, because the way the crypto system works, the consensus mechanisms and the slow transfers, etc., and very high cost of arriving at those consensus. So I don't think that will work, but that's a matter of detail which the Reserve Bank will figure out.
But the budget does talk about the fact that the central bank digital currency will be based on technologies like blockchain, etc. So then we are looking at a crypto form of a currency.
I don't think there is any mention in the law which has been. So there are two amendments. One, that insertion of the definition. I think this is clause 1(3)(b) or something in the RBI Act, which has been done. And the second one is the exemptions from section 22 to 28. Many of those sections have been. There is no talk of the blockchain. In my judgment.
So I think the industry must be thinking in those lines, on those lines there.
Right.
Great. So since we brought about the 2019 cryptocurrency bill, there was also a lot of expectation that the cryptocurrency bill would be taken up in the winter session of the parliament, but even that didn't happen, and there are worries that there could be further delays. What do you think is the impact because of the delay of bringing out a legislation on cryptocurrencies and virtual digital assets, both for the sector as well as for the government?
See, the way it's evolving, we talked about the official digital currency. So that currency aspect of that bill, in a way, has been taken care of in the manner in which it has been done. The crypto assets, which was not really regulated or proposed to be regulated by 2019 bill, has now been recognized in a way, and the taxation related provisions have been made. And by default, what is left now is something which is required to be sort of regulated or decided upon how to deal with it. There are very important, significant developments in this space which will have to be taken. For example, one big thing is that the entire ecosystem of the crypto assets or the crypto businesses take place in what is now described as the autonomous organization, DAO, decentralized autonomous organization, right? This organization is very different from the organizations which we have known in the past. The company forms of organizations, the proprietorship, partnerships, etc., etc. So for most of the businesses, you can identify who is the owner, who is the occupier, who is the investor. Even for companies, who are the owners, promoters, and things like that. But for the decentralized autonomous organizations, you don't know who is the controller, who is the owner, who is the investors, who runs it, who gets the profit, how does it get the profit. There is only a currency, what they call currency, and facing for and working for everything. In fact, in my judgment, and this I have said, the cryptocurrencies of the crypto platforms virtually are equivalent to the days of barter trade, where any asset, whether goat or cow, was an asset, right? But it was a complete thing. It would produce milk, it would do it, and it will also be it will work as asset or something. So in a certain sense, the virtual currencies are like cows and goats of the barter days, right? And that phenomenon doesn't fit in with our phenomenon as we understand. So how do we deal with the things like DAOs? Likewise, the way the crypto platform works, they work on the smart contracts, which are self-executing, autonomously self-executing kind of contracts. It doesn't require any codes. It doesn't require any umpires or anyone to do, no one requires to register those contracts and things like that. They are autonomous kind of thing. Our contract acts don't deal with the kind of smart contracts on which the blockchain and the cryptography system works. Now that is where, to my mind, the real intellectual issues are coming to the fore, and they will come to the fore in time. When many times we say that regulation, we actually sort of make the problem look very simple. It's not that. The regulation debate has been generated largely by the exchanges which have come up, because there are now exchanges which mimic the other exchanges, commodity exchanges or the equity exchanges, etc., which deal with them. They are not crypto platforms. They only deal with this asset aspect of it, that there is a Bitcoin, so you can trade Bitcoin on that, or Ether on that, or that kind of thing. But they don't deal with the issues which the governments need to face relating to the DAOs, the smart contracts, the way you can store, transfer, in the privacy aspect of it. Today, the crypto assets are by and large in the world, though some changes takes place through exchanges, but they are held largely by private keys and the public keys. Those private keys are not shared with anyone. So the issues connected with how do you recognize holdings thereof, how do you recognize the privacy. So those are the issues which will need to be dealt with. In my judgment, the government is perhaps trying to or is struggling with and trying to understand that these are the dimensions. That's why the government sometimes says that we are discussing with the, and there is another big aspect of it. This does not respect any physical national borders. It's all virtual. It's global in that sense. So that's why perhaps the government is trying to discuss these issues in G20, elsewhere and all. So I don't think the government would be in a hurry to bring the next edition of the law. What will most probably happen is that other aspects, like we have dealt with direct taxes, in that there might be some progress towards indirect taxation, because many of these services like mining and other things have to be taxed. So you might have inclusion in GST when you go along. You might have some dispensation for dealing with the smart contracts. So I think this is the way it will evolve, rather than another law. But at some point of time, if the government is in a position to say that we recognize this as an asset class, as a different asset class, and this is the way, but for that, lots of homework and the groundwork will be done.
Okay, so interesting. So in your opinion, you don't see a full-fledged regulation per se or legislation per se on cryptocurrencies anytime soon. You're saying the government is actively taking steps to tax cryptocurrencies. Like you said, there could also be an inclusion in the GST for crypto mining, etc. So that could be one approach by the government. Mr. Garg, thank you so much for sharing your insights and raising some crucial points for which the government would need to give a lot of clarity on as well, especially like you said, because regulation and legislation of cryptos is going to be a challenging task, especially as we head into the future of Web3, metaverse, etc. So we have to wait and watch what is next really for crypto regulations. Mr. Garg, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. This is very exciting, but not a fully known. There are lots of unknown things. So very interesting space. Keep debating. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, sir.
Crypto products and NFTs are unregulated and can be highly risky. There may be no regulatory recourse for any loss from such transactions.